nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just to state in motion of what we're doing, so we're
I'll
going
make
to
a motion to open the meeting, please.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Meeting's
Keith is not
open.
absent, and
And so Keith.
That's what I asked.
Still late though.
Sorry.
Okay, so first up tonight is
Fred absent.
10 Web Court. You got it? Okay, yeah, right there is perfect. If you don't mind just stating your name and spell your last name.
Yeah, my name is Larry Mallory. My last name is Mallory.
Okay, Larry, if you want to just take a moment, I think it's a new project for the board, so just kind of give maybe a 2-minute what you're trying to do.
Yeah, real quick. So, good evening, everyone. We're looking to put an above-ground pool in our private residence. We had the building inspector out there in April. There was some leveling and grading that needs to happen. So he indicated because of the leveling and grading that we would need to come before you guys because there'll be heavy equipment at Bobcat to do it. This morning, we received 2 letters from the attorney and engineer referring to a exemption for, among other things, pools. So certainly we want to be in compliance with the rules. We also want to get done, so we're here to see what we got to do.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll jump into comments, and this ties into, so you're gonna hear me digress a little bit from your project, because your project and actually another project on the agenda tonight are perfect examples of a situation. The board did ask me to review as well as prepare a recommendation letter to the village board concerning the grading. One of the things that this particular project has brought up is I would draw the board's attention to section 32 of the zoning code, 200-32, which relates to land disturbance, but specifically, as I stated in my memo, exempts basic things: grading due to gardening, pool, it actually exempts swimming pools, foundations for single-family homes.
I have a copy of it if you'd like.
And so what I've specifically asked before Mr. and Mrs. Mallory get much further into this is to review that provision. We do have a new building inspector. I think this is the first time, and some of it is serendipitous because the board had already asked me to do some digging on a broader scale, not knowing that we would have your project before us. So with respect to that, I have asked the building inspector to issue an interpretation as to whether that exemption applies to that specific thing. If that exemption does apply, thank you so much for coming this evening. We won't see you again, and you can go do the rest through the building department. If not, it would come back for site plan review with us. I will just run down, and I apologize, I don't have it open right this second. Here we go. Run down my comments. This property is in the SR's 20 zoning district. A public hearing, given the nature of the application, is optional. And the application is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker, which means that no further environmental, it's so minor that there's no further environmental review. So then I will defer to Dave as to other engineering comments.
So, in light of the discussion that we were having with regards to whether or not the project was exempt, looking at the section of the code, it looked like there is a chance that that may be. So, I didn't really review it. There wasn't much of a site plan that was submitted. Certainly, if the building inspector determines that a site plan is required, then they would have to provide one in accordance with the, with the village code. We'll review it in that regard, but I didn't have any comments other than essentially citing the potential for the exemption under that section of the code.
Right. So then, I mean, it really comes down to, if you wanted to expedite it before we get an opinion, we were hoping to get an opinion maybe even tonight, but we didn't.
Is the building inspector here?
Not right now.
Not this evening.
No. But he is in this building, normally. But we can be in touch with him. And I'm thinking you'd probably want to wait for his final, when we look at the code again and show him, when council
I'll
shows.
bug him tomorrow morning.
Right. She already sent him. So he's probably going to do his due diligence. Could even be tonight. Who knows? you
So
know.
we may bug him tomorrow morning too, because, you know, nothing personal, but this is like a month and a half now and $1,300. So we kind of want to see it.
Oh, yeah, listen, yeah, we totally get that. It's, you know, our goal would be to save you the effort and the money. Because a site plan would cost you some money, and then the review of it and so forth, so.
But it feels like overkill for an above-ground pool.
It does, and it's, sometimes there are unintended consequences of laws. This would be one of those, right? So, but with the exemption and everything else, and the building inspector, to be fair, is brand new. He just came in, you know, with us in this last month. So he's doing catch-up, is what I'm saying, on a lot of things. So, but we'll push him for an answer.
I will follow up with him first thing in the morning.
Yep, so I think, unless you had other questions, I think we'll be, and as soon as we hear, we're gonna let you know.
We would appreciate that.
Yep,
Thank you.
you betcha. Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right, and then we have 16 Megara. Yeah, just.
Yeah, you're all set.
Great, just,
And you're welcome to stay, but
Yeah, if you want to hear the rest of it, you're. So just state your name and spell your last name.
Sure. Edgar, last name is Aguilar.
Perfect. Okay, so new project for us as well, so take a minute or two and just tell us what you're trying to do.
We're gonna do our patio. We're gonna put a vinyl fence around and grid the patio and do drains for the patio.
Like French drains around the patio?
Uh-huh.
Does the patio connect to the house? I don't
It's
pull
like
up.
the backyard, so the backyard of the house.
Yeah,
So we're gonna grid it all the whole patio because it was like not even. So we're gonna grid the whole patio, do the drains, and put the vinyl fence around the house.
okay.
Because it's a pool in there, so we have temporary fence around the pool right now. So we're like
Are you changing the grading?
level up a little bit because when it drains, it gets like a lot of flows around the house. So we're gonna drain the whole patio, put drains around the property.
Right, okay. Dave, I believe you did a review here.
Yes.
You wanna-
you want me to go first on the legal and then jump into
Sure.
the review? Sorry, I'm
No,
stealing
that's
Dave's
okay,
thunder.
that's fine.
Did you hear what we just said to them?
Yes.
Swimming pool? Sort of the same thing, not exactly. We talked about the swimming pool is existing, but it also has gardening and activities related to the maintenance of landscape features on existing developed lots. So we have also likewise asked the building inspector to issue a interpretation as to the code, whether that exemption applies to what you're proposing. Also, if sometime, the application itself noted that there was grading across the whole property. The question is the extent. With landscaping, grading can be a lot, grading can be a little. Is this one where we're, you know, adding topsoil and just seeding?
Yes, topsoil seating.
But, you know, or are you cutting significantly and grading the hillside? If the building inspector agrees with my assessment that it is exempt, and again, I don't know the extent of your grading on your proposed grading, but if it's exempt, then good luck, enjoy we'll go talk to the building inspector. If not, you're slightly different from the prior application that was before you this evening. Your house is within 500 feet of the town of Monroe, and because it triggers site plan, it triggers 239.
Right.
Which is reviewed by the county, because it is site plan. Okay, so
The long and the short of that is it's a 30-day
it's a 30-day delay.
delay.
We
because
have to
the
give them
county,
30 days.
It's different. In the
yeah,
town.
typically on something like this, they're not even gonna respond, typically. Because it's very small, but you still have to, by law,
Give
wait the
them-
30 days.
Okay.
So, but,
A public hearing is, if we need site plan, a public hearing is optional, and it is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker. Again, I have likewise, in the same email that I requested an interpretation for them, I've also requested an interpretation for you. I will make the same promise that I will follow up with the building inspector on both parcels. The only difference between your lot and their lot is they are not 500 feet from the town of Monroe. You unfortunately are. So then, Dave.
So, yeah, I had conducted a review of what was submitted, and essentially, I think as Elizabeth was saying, it was unclear from the maps that were provided, you know, where the proposed French drains, the fence, and the grading was proposed. I saw in the application, it said grading on the entire property, you know, so again, if that's the case, if it's not exempt, if the building inspector determines it not to be exempt, and that it's subject to the planning board review, then we would need a site plan.
Okay.
And the site plan would have to, there's requirements for it outlined in the village code about the information that needs to be provided on that, but it would need to be a survey with grading, what the extent of the grading is, the contour of the land, how much is being done, where it's being done, the limits of it. I'm assuming,
Yes,
I'm assuming it's not the entire
no,
property,
it's not,
but,
yes, it's the back.
but
It's
it
the
sounds
back.
like, okay.
It's the backyard.
So if it does have to come to this board, it would need to meet
Okay.
the requirements.
No problem.
And then, the second part of my letter, which I don't know if you have a copy of, but basically, again, it just talks about the fact that there's a certain section of the code that exempts certain applications, and again, that would be subject to the building inspector, his determination. And then the last thing is that if fences are subject to section 200-26.5 of the village code. So that talks about height of fences, location of fences, et cetera. So that should be checked. And again, I don't know exactly where the fence is proposed located and what you're proposing, but I'm just noting that for the record.
So our I can't give you legal advice, but what I would suggest is I'm gonna follow up with the building inspector before you go get a site plan, because there is some expense to that. It's you're gonna probably need a design professional to design that for you. I would await the building inspector's determination,
Okay.
because if he answers, yes, Liz, I agree with you, then this discussion goes
Yes,
away,
okay.
and you're not, what I don't want you to do is spend money,
Exactly.
and then the building inspector says, oh, never mind, you don't need it. So
Thank you.
he may need a little bit more information to help him with that determination, specifically with the grading. And I don't, I'll follow up with him. But we've made the request, to avoid site plan. If it does need site plan, and he says, no, it needs site plan, what you would then do is cause a site plan to be prepared. Again, highly recommend you get a design professional to do that, an engineer or a surveyor. You would make your next submission to us. We would, the engineer would look at the details, and we'd also refer it to the county. But that's gonna take a couple, by the time you do that, your design professional will need a little bit of time to do that. So you would make another submission, we'd review it, refer it, and then we could take action. But we're trying the short path first, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Did I miss anything?
Anything? Nope.
No.
Board,
Does the
anything?
board have
Questions or anything? Nope.
As far as information for the inspector, can he just literally just go there himself? He just needs to
The-
go there and look at it, right? Or-
So technically under the code, because again, the biggest question is changing grading, he can request information like topography.
Oh.
There are, a surveyor can go, and Dave is better to speak to this, can go do an elevation point to show, generally speaking,
It's
the
not like
change.
changing green. It's just patch with its holes.
Yeah,
It's
are,
like elevators, like,
the question
like-
is,
like
the
push
question
one
is
more ring.
there, are you literally going and like adding topsoil to fill the little potholes, or are you cutting it, is there a cut and a fill?
What I would suggest is, I know you had sent in some sketches, or there were, I think, copies of prior surveys. What I'd recommend is mark on there, again, if they're just small areas or something, if that's what you're doing, mark those on there. I would suggest you'd maybe take photos of the site to bring to the building inspector so that he has an understanding of, what your grading issue
Actually,
is.
He's been there already.
Okay.
Oh, he has been, okay, all right, so then he may already have a better picture, but
Yeah,
Big thing is little,
Small.
so it's not.
yeah,
Right.
it's hard to tell from the language on the application itself,
Exactly. Then
and,
see in person. Yes.
I just want to do the fence because I
Yeah.
have a little girl and then I don't feel
Right.
safe,
so like I said, if you're just, effectively kind of filling in the,
Bum.
yeah, that's not really,
Yes,
but if you're
exactly.
cutting,
No, we're not cutting.
and, all of a sudden, what was this is now made that.
No, not at all.
Um,
It's just like it rains. It gets a lot of holes in the middle. It's just like
and that's what the French drains are for, to help that drain out.
help. It's like a little behind our property. It's like a little lake goes around the property and goes into the other side of the street. We're trying
Where are
to
the
push
where are the
everything
drains gonna outlet to?
to the little lake that's behind. It's like a little like thing goes
Okay.
under the next property. It goes under.
Is it on your property or on the neighbor's property?
My property and the neighbor's property. It's like all around behind. So we're gonna try to push that water into that So when it rains, it goes all the way to the other side of the street.
Cause it go on my garage and I have a lot of damage.
Just make sure you're not inappropriately discharging off your property, so. just-
No.
Or creating a problem for the neighbor, exactly.
Yeah,
And this is what we're trying to do, not to like the water goes to the house too, because like when it rains, it's in between my house and the neighbor house. It's like a little thing in the middle. So we're gonna push everything so nothing go to their house and go around.
okay.
So I would just say, do what you can to make sure that the building inspector has an understanding of what it is you're looking to do.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so,
We like how you were diverted and you went up and over.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
It's a little bump and then finish around.
Didn't know if you were watching.
all right, so I think your next step is just to wait for the building inspector's determination, because that will dictate what you need to do,
Perfect,
okay?
perfect, we'll wait.
Okay, so, we'll be in touch, okay? All right?
Yeah, it
So
shouldn't
you're-
take too long.
No problem, thank you,
You're all,
appreciate you.
Okay.
you're all set.
Have a great
Thanks.
day.
Have a great night.
Enjoy your night. Thank you. Oh.
They're gonna go, you know?
We'll have somebody contact you, either the building inspector or someone from
Once
here.
Terry gets the
They'll
inter,
have my number.
Yes,
Once-
yeah, as long as it's on, it's your name and number? Great.
They'll-
So it'll either be Terry or the building inspector, depending on what's needed.
Perfect. You have a great night, okay?
You
Thank
too.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Maybe by this week?
I hope this week,
Hopefully, we think so, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll nudge him.
Okay. Let me just do there. Let's see, 581.
Nope,
That's here too. 581 is first, unless,
Maybe special because Avi's not here yet.
yeah, we could do, yeah, since the other one's not here.
He was asking where he was in the order of things and whether he was.
Could be. It could be. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing okay. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. All right, so we'll just, I think, jump right in with comments from Dave,
Okay.
and then I'm sure Liz as well has.
yeah, this one's the Dave show. I have some
This
comments.
is more
but
of the
not-
Dave show. Next
This
one's
is the Dave show.
more of the Liz show.
Okay. Did you get a
So-
copy of the comments, Mike?
I did.
Okay. All right, I guess we'll just go through them one at a time, if that's okay?
Sure.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, the bulk table indicates a proposed side yard of 48.5 feet. The village code requires that one side yard must be at least 50 feet. Design engineer to revise to provide a minimum 50-foot side yard, or variance will be required. One thing I should note is after, today I was checking, the village code, I believe, has an allowance for overhang of the building, if that's the part of the building that you were counting as the side yard.
I think actually what I have shown in the plans is the setbacks only, and the setback coincides with the line of the sidewalk. There's still another 6+ feet to the building, so I think what I need to show is the actual dimension from the property line to the building.
Correct.
And will exceed.
Okay,
The
so,
requirement.
all right, so you showed it to the sidewalk,
Yes, exactly.
erroneously, I guess, right? Okay.
Oh, there isn't?
Yeah, but still the dimensions are off.
Okay.
Just a mistake in the
So there's an overhang as well, and that's what you,
Yeah, but I think
okay.
everything is correct, but something is, the setback line was moved away by mistake.
I'll check it either
So
way.
it-
I think we have enough room.
Okay, I'd have to check the wording, but I printed it out at the office, I'm not sure I brought it.
I think what it is right now, Mike, is it's a 1.5 foot short if you're going off the
Can
overhang,
extend.
and if the overhang is 1.5 foot,
Overhang can extend.
you make it.
I'll pull it, I have.
Right? But if you're saying there's even another 6 feet, if it's coming from the wrong
I
dimension,
got it.
I'll double check the architectural plans versus the site plan, and we'll confirm what the right dimensions are.
It shows one side
I'll pull it, because you can go through your comments.
It was moved away with 1.5 feet.
Here it is.
right, but one side has to be a minimum of 50.
Excess of 10%.
ex-
So it's.
That's what we're saying,
5 feet.
yes.
It's a correction thing.
Yep.
yes.
So,
Yeah, fine,
so
perfect.
we just found the section of the code here, it's 200-17D. It says an overhanging roof may not project into a required setback in excess of 10% of the required yard setback, so 5 feet is what you'd be
Oh, we
permitted to.
We
to do.
definitely have that, yeah.
Yeah, the roof is typically between 12 and 24 inches above the
Okay. All right, number 2, applicant to confirm the height of the proposed building, which is listed as being 35 feet, the maximum permitted in the GB district. I'm assuming you're
He'll
remaining
give
less
me
than 35
We'll
feet?
give you some architectural plans. Yeah.
We'll have the check from the next meeting.
Okay. Sheet 2 of the plans provided includes the wetland boundaries and the 100-foot adjacent area. It appears that the wetland boundary was validated by the New York State DEC because there's a validation block on there. However, the map does not include a signature and stamp by the New York State DEC or the surveyor of record. A copy of a validated map bearing the signature and stamp by the DEC and the surveyor should be provided.
Yeah, I just got to send it in and get it validated. Doug Ogler delineated it back in March.
Oh, so-
I'm sorry. Still saying Doug Ogler, Mike Fratz, yeah.
So it was sent to the DEC but not yet validated?
I have not even mailed it to them yet. They've actually delineated it.
Okay.
We've surveyed it. I have the map prepared, as you see. I just got to send it in and get it actually
Okay.
signed.
Okay, all right, so that'll be a condition then
Yep.
until,
Dog is now around for over 10 years.
I don't know why I said Doug Ogler.
okay, number 4. A total of 234 square feet of disturbance is proposed within the wetland and 1,301 square feet in the adjacent area. A permit from New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers is required prior to any issuance of amended site plan approval, and this should also be noted on the plan.
Yes.
Okay. Number 5, in some areas, drainage pipes with a 12-inch diameter and a slope of 0.5% are proposed. Design engineer shall provide calculations confirming the capacity of the stormwater collection system.
So I do that in HydroCAD. So I actually have catch basins with piping modeled all the way up to the 100-year storm. So if you check the HydroCAD calcs, you'll see the pipes, you'll see the percent full, what their capacity is. It should all be in there.
And that's checking tailwater conditions as well?
Everything. It should be, yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and that's one of the other comments we'll see is you had submitted the stormwater pollution prevention plan. We're in the process of reviewing that,
Yes.
so we'll
Yep.
get to that then. Okay. Number 6, the plans have been revised to replace the 2 existing driveway entrances onto New York State Route 17M with a single new entrance located in between the existing 2. Approval of plans from New York State DOT should be provided prior to any issuance of amended site plan approval. A permit from New York State DOT will be required prior to construction. Applicant has advised that plans have been sent to New York State DOT for review.
Correct.
Okay. Number 7, the proposed driveway grade coming off of Route 17M appears to be about 6% and is sloped toward Route 17M. It is noted that New York State DOT typically requires a low point to prevent runoff from discharging into the highway. I'm not sure what are you looking for? Sorry. Number 8, a landscaping plan has been provided. Landscaping area calculations shall be provided to confirm the compliance with 200-45J, requiring that a minimum of 10% of the total parking area shall be devoted to landscaping. Planning board should also consider the adequacy of the submitted landscaping plan. Number 9, a timber guide rail is proposed along portions of the parking lot. Details for the timber guide rail should be provided. Number 10, on sheet 5 of 18, it appears from the grades shown and the labels that a curb is being proposed along the northern property line to serve as a short wall. Details of the curb for this use shall be provided. So is that correct? There's a short
Yeah,
concrete wall you're using?
well, there's some that are just a little bit more than 6 inches tall. It might be 8 or 9. We can provide an appropriate detail for that.
So it's just a short concrete wall?
It's, yeah, or a large curb, however you want to determine.
Okay. Number 11, section 200-34H3 prohibits dumpster enclosures within required setbacks. Dumpster enclosure location as shown is within the required side yard setback and should be revised accordingly. Now
So
technically, I think that the code, I think, also mentions buffers. So I don't know if necessarily that's speaking specifically of village code buffers or if it would
What are we
include
talking
New York
about?
State.
I think it's only in the front setback, is that the side yard too?
Which one are we talking?
200-34H3.
Give me a second.
So the one reason I placed it where it is shown was to try to minimize more disturbance in the DEC adjacent area. But I'm going to have to apply for a permit anyways for the piping and stormwater appurtenances that are in there, so I might as well include that as well. I should be able to slide it.
Yeah, the way I read it, I thought it was any setback or buffer, I thought.
It says 5 feet to the side yard, so.
Dumpster enclosures, yeah, dumpster enclosures shall not be located with any required buffers, setbacks, or easements.
So that would include the side yard setback, right? And now would the buffer be,
Oh, wait a second, is it in the side yard? Is it, I thought it was past the building.
It is
it says
past
that
the
it's
building.
located in the side yard, the required side yard.
Hold
Right. It's just adjacent to the last parking space.
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
On the western side, on the southwestern side of the site. Again, I only put it there to try to stay out of the adjacent area, but I mean, I'll just slide that over. It'll be in the adjacent area, and we'll just include it in the permitting from the
It'd
DEC.
be behind the building.
Correct.
right?
That's right.
Okay. Number 12, section 200-34D requires that all non-residential uses shall provide for a fire lane to allow access for emergency vehicles at all times. Plan should be referred to emergency services for input. Number 13, signage for parking and traffic control should be provided. Number 14, regarding the submitted lighting plan, it appears that there is one SW2 fixture missing from the plan along the southern side of the building. It looks like you have the illumination there, but.
Yeah, I might have forgot the actual fixture. Okay.
B, plan should confirm that the proposed color temperature is 3,000 Kelvin or less as required. C, in some areas, the illumination along the property line exceeds the 0.2 foot candles permitted. Plan should be revised to comply. Number 15, the proposed sewer connection shall be subject to review and approval by Orange County Department of Environmental Facilities.
We did make a submittal for that, right? For Orange County. Yeah, we did make a submittal, just to give the board an update.
Number 16, a 4-inch ductile iron water service is shown on the plan which appears to connect to an existing service. The size and material of the existing service shall be noted on the plan, or provisions made to replace the connection if necessary. Number 17, plan should indicate if sprinkler system will be provided. Do you guys know?
I believe so, yeah. Or not, going to provide a sprinkler system for this?
I'm not sure if it's required, I will check on that,
Okay.
we'll know that by the next submission, once I have the building design.
Okay, backflow prevention will need to be approved by the Orange County Department of Health prior to issuance of a building permit. 18, application will need to be made to the Orange County Environmental Facilities Sewer District Number 1 for the sewer lateral connection. Orange County Environmental Facilities should also be included on the EAF as an agency from which a permit or approval is required. Number 19, regarding the submitted short EAF form, A, question 13B should be answered yes, as disturbances to the on-site wetland are proposed. The extent of the disturbance should be clarified in the space below the checkbox. B, question 16 should be answered yes, as the 100-year floodplain encroaches into the very rear portion of the property adjacent to the existing stream. C, question 17A should be answered yes, as site runoff discharges to the stream, which then flows across and through the adjacent properties. D, applicant sponsor name should be filled out and document signed. Number 20, a traffic impact study has been provided. The planning board should consider referring the submitted report to the traffic consultant for review and comment.
Which I believe we did. Right? Didn't we send it over? Yeah.
That's been done, okay. Number 21, the submitted stormwater pollution prevention plan is under review. Comments on the SWIP will be provided as the review is completed. Number 22, plan should be referred to the Orange County Department of Planning under GML 239. And number 23, a public hearing is required.
We take no exception to the comments. I gave Dave my responses on 1 or 2, but other than that, we'll take care of them.
Perfect. That's what we like to hear.
What's this? Can you guys take a quick look? Joel, show me 200-34.
G, you have H and then you have G. What is the difference between G and H?
It says dumpster enclosure shall not be located any closer than 5 feet to a lot.
Hold on.
Well, if you have, I would presume if you have a zoning district in which the setback is less than 5 feet,
Okay.
they still
30
don't want the dumpster any closer than 5 feet to the lot line.
34
34 G.
refers to outdoor display of merchandise.
No,
It's a supplementary.
No,
regulation.
section 200-34
Yes,
G.
G.
refers to outdoor display of, hold on.
this is the section he's talking about, I think. It's with the dumpster enclosure. We were talking about the setback, placement in the setback. So there's a section in here, what we read before, that talks about, again, you're not supposed to have the dumpster within the setbacks. But then it says it should not be located any closer than 5 feet to a lot line. My presumption would be there may be a zoning district that, or a circumstance into which your setback is less than 5 feet. But they still don't want the dumpster any closer than 5 feet.
We'll move it to behind the building, within the adjacent area.
Mike, before we send it out to the fire department, are you going to detail anything on the plan for the fire lane? Or do you want us to send it and you'll hear from them?
I think maybe, yeah, I'd prefer you send it, we hear from them to see what maybe they were looking for. I've given them the fire truck turning analysis. That is their truck. I've used it on other projects, so that's their turning template.
Okay.
My thinking was they might want to have like either no parking or standing signs somewhere along that axis, maybe,
Painted on the street.
something.
Yeah, similar to what we did for Gray Barn.
Gray Barn.
I mean, I can put that in there then, that's fine.
So, for purposes of, I do have a couple of minor comments in addition to Dave's, but for purposes of process, this is a multi-agency application. You've got SHPO, you've got DEC, you said Army, did I hear Army Corps?
Army Corps wetlands, yeah.
DOT, as well as us. So what I would recommend at your next, regular meeting, which will give Mike the chance to do that, is do our customary resolution where we're gonna declare our intent for lead agency. We would then do our circulation, and we would also, in that same resolution, refer to 239 and emergency services, for review. So if any last minute edits, and you're aware that, because of the election, we don't have space. So the 24th is getting bumped to July 7th. We're making that a special meeting. So we would take that action at that meeting.
Okay, that gives you a little extra time. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, if you sneak it in, you got a better shot of us saying, sure, we can make that work.
So there were still a few revisions to the short form EAF. I might as well make them
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
it.
make them.
those sign it and get it in.
Also, Tara, if we haven't already done so, the traffic study should go to John Canning to start, so he can start. That
We
does not
sent
need.
it, he's already got it.
Perfect, then that does not need to wait. And then just, Mike, make a mental note, I don't need it now, but as a condition, I will need a stormwater maintenance agreement for your stormwater infrastructure.
It's actually in the back of the stormwater pollution
Oh,
prevention.
it is? Okay, good.
If you want, I can extract that and send it to you.
Yeah, I look at the SWIP and I
Unless you
go,
wanna look at the whole
I
SWIP
look
and
at the
check my
SWIP and I go, not it.
Yeah,
I
you're welcome.
let him,
I try to do the same, but unfortunately my job doesn't allow me to do that.
No, it all falls to you.
He had some other changes on the EAF.
did you get Ted Fink's?
I did get that.
Okay. I have not had a chance to read it yet.
So he had, I know, some changes on the EAF as well,
Right.
some modifications to
Yeah.
make.
Yeah, we just got that today, Mike. And Ted, it wasn't a delay, but he said some health issues in the family that have just delayed him a little bit.
So, I think if you get that, we can be in a position to, I anticipate if you make a submission for that July meeting.
But we're talking about a short form, because he's suggested full EAF in his,
Yeah, long form, I think he's suggesting.
I don't know that you,
I didn't think
He
it was
says
warranted.
I recommend that a full EAF be provided for a number of reasons. First, the site is contiguous with the Monroe Village Historic District, listed on the National Register of Historic Places. While it does not appear as if the proposed action is a type 1 action, thresholds for type 1 are close to being reached. A resolution to declare the board's intent to be lead agency should be considered at the planning board meeting scheduled for June 24th, which I guess is going to be July 7th now. There are a number of other agency approvals required.
that we know.
As shown on the short EAF, the existing 1930s era building on the site was surveyed for its historic significance, and the applicant has stated that coordination with SHPO has been initiated. Additional studies such as a cultural resource survey to identify the potential for prehistoric or historic resources appear warranted.
I don't know that legally you need a full, if we're not a
Type 1.
type 1.
Yeah, so I guess it was a recommendation.
It's a recommendation,
Right.
to do a full, and you know just so you're clear,
Yeah.
the difference, the full is the
Oh, yeah.
significantly longer one. It's not a type, if it was a type 1, you'd have to do a full. It's not a type 1, it's an unlisted.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I don't think the board had enough time to read through Ted's letter, so why don't we just make that decision?
Well, I think the applicant is looking, because if he has to do a full,
Yeah, then you gotta get on it.
I mean, could we circulate with a short?
we can certainly circulate with
And
a
then
short
if
and
the
reserve the
board
right
feels
to.
that-
Yeah, that would be the way to go.
That's fair.
Yeah, that'd be the way to go. Yep.
But you'd want the short EAF to be revised, right?
Yeah.
To reflect the
Your-
things
The
we already talked
changes,
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And whatever Ted had in there as well.
yeah, that's fine, yes.
I just don't know that he's calling for any information that would be
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
elicited by, that would not be elicited by the short.
Well,
I'll double
I
check
read through
it.
it, but I thought that the comments that he listed were those on the short EAF.
Right,
So I think.
that's easy enough for him to
Right.
fix. My point is there specific information on the long form that is not elicited by the short form? And I don't know that there is, I'll go through Ted's comments, but,
Yeah, well, I think what we're saying is you'll revise the short
The short
EAF to
form.
address everything that's already been brought up, and if the board will reserve the right to still require the full EAF
Right.
Correct,
upon review.
that's fine.
Okay.
Do you have anything else, Liz?
nope, so, next meeting, upon the next submission, we can do intent to be lead agency, and I can coordinate with Terry as to the circulation. We can do 239, and we can do emergency services referral, and I think that'll put us in line for, actually, that'll line up nicely, because we'll do it in July. You'll be ready to go for the August meeting, and we can start moving the project forward at the August meeting, because our 30 days will be eaten up pretty
Yep.
quickly.
That works for me. Any other comments or questions from the board themselves at this time?
Anybody have anything?
We'll also have at that meeting, we'll have the facade of the building.
Yeah, the architectural
Mhm.
floor plans and elevations, yeah, in order to potentially get a public hearing, we have to have that,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Thanks for your time tonight, everybody. So I guess we won't see you until the 7th,
Correct.
so have a nice 4th of
Unless
July.
you want to meet out on the street.
Yeah.
Because we don't have and we
Not
couldn't
for a
get, we
meeting.
tried
We'll
to
do
get
some
town
other
hall. We tried to get town hall, but everybody they're all polling places,
Yeah.
so for the primary.
Yeah, I just wanted to wish everybody a nice 4th of July, that's all.
I won't be here for the 7th, but I'll make sure somebody from my office can be. I'll be in Alaska.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just on a quick thing so we don't forget, how many of you it'll be no problem for the 7th to be here, because that's a special meeting,
And we need quorum.
and we need a quorum, July 7th.
I'm going to make George, I'm gonna try to make it back down for him. I'll let you know 100% by the Friday though.
Okay.
I need to make sure I have 4, because we also have a public hearing scheduled for that. So, I have 1, 2, 3, Mr. Umberto?
4.
Okay, so I have 4.
Right, but then you still have to ask the applicant, because if they're.
They run the risk that.
They run the
If
risk.
one no vote, then they don't have a majority, but, okay. And Terry, did we send out that?
Marilyn, were you there
Did I
that
send
day?
you the notice? I've lost
The
complete track.
7th of July?
But I didn't publish, I mean, I'll do it
No,
tomorrow.
we've got time to publish it, but
Yeah.
I gave you the notice.
Let us
Okay.
know whenever, yeah.
I just, I'm all discombobulated, so I just want to make sure you had the notice.
Good evening, everyone. Avi Weinberg, Weinberg Lima Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant for 581 Route 17M. We've been here a couple times. This project has been progressing nicely, maybe down to a few details that need to be ironed out with the engineer and attorney. There was one big item that we had to take care of, which is Village of Monroe code requires that because the applicant is seeking to divide the retail spaces and the office spaces into private units where he would sell to people, in addition to just going through the Attorney General's office and commercial condoizing them, we need to prepare a subdivision plat. We submitted one a few weeks ago. We got comment letters back from you this morning from the town's attorney and the town's engineer. I guess maybe before we go through the next steps, if we could go through some of these comments.
Sure.
Sure. Um, Elizabeth, in general, there are some comments that I noticed. Some of them you say comment satisfied, some of them you say for information, and some of them are blank.
Yep.
If I could maybe just ask you about them, because they seem on our end at least to have been resolved. Is there anything more that you're looking for? So maybe if we could just go in order, I'll jump to the comments.
Okay.
Comment number 7, it just says board has been declared lead agency. So is that a for information?
Yeah, that's a for information.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, comment number 8. We've all agreed now we're down to 73. I know the planning board
Yep,
agreed
I
to
can
that.
I'll mark that
Okay.
comment
I
satisfied.
just want to make sure that we don't go back and forth, that
Yep,
we got
no.
everything down to where it needs to be. Okay, comment number 13. He does not plan, comment number 13, we've provided renderings for the proposed building. The existing building is staying as is. Is there anything else we would need to provide you for that?
I have it listed outstanding just because
Right.
the board is still reviewing that and going to make comments, but there is a submission, the question for the board, particularly, and we had this with a couple of applicants, what happens when, how far does that architectural review extend, and how does it tie into the existing building?
Yeah.
And so we had that with Choco Cheese.
Yeah, and we think it's, once you touch the building, it
Yeah,
opens
so-
it all.
So,
And that's what we have to review.
So just provide a rendering of what's there now essentially, or, meaning
Yeah.
the proposed building we gave you rendering.
yes.
Correct.
Right, so the existing building, he doesn't plan on touching the exterior.
Right, so photos would be really helpful, I think, for the board more than anything else at the moment.
So there's no proposed improvements to the existing building, is that?
Correct, they're not proposing it, so we're gonna review, obviously, as we do the architectural review for changes if we deem there's some needed.
Okay. All right,
Good.
next.
Okay, I guess comment 18 is basically saying, look at all the subdivision comments. I guess that would just be a for information.
Yeah, the
Okay, okay.
18's for information.
Okay, number 19, that's a big one. There will be, I guess, the commercial equivalent of an HOA.
Yes, I need those details.
Okay, fine, I guess we'll provide more. I'm
I
gonna have
just-
to bring in the people working on the condo part. They were sort of doing their
We
thing.
need to, what I need to know is the structure of how that is to be maintained. I'm assuming, there are two ways of doing it. The owner creates the common areas as a unit, because you can define a condominium any number of ways. And then that unit owner is responsible for all of the maintenance. I doubt that's how he or she wishes to approach it, because there's no funding mechanism. I'm assuming that there's a contribution and a funding mechanism. I just need to see that, so that we can ensure that the totality of the site is taken care of, who's responsible, et cetera. And I'll want
Right.
to see that prior to approval.
And again, I haven't done this part, but I'm assuming the AG's office also goes through that, so they've probably done this, or they're in the process. I should say.
I'm sure, it
Yeah.
sounds like you have, condo attorneys who are doing this. It does go through at least a minimal level. I don't know whether they're going after, Section 7 approval, which is a type of a lower level approval. I don't know that. It's gonna be a condition that it's subject to Attorney General approval.
Okay.
So, but I'll also want to see that there's a general mechanism in place, and if the village needs to be involved in any on-site maintenance,
Right.
in that regard.
Okay, then the rest of the comments, we essentially took these plans that were prepared by the architect or the person dealing with the AG's office and put them on our plans to create a subdivision plan. So I did see you have a couple of comments. One of them, just, the orientation of the condominium plan. It was actually originally the opposite. We sort of kept this.
Well, but the condominium plan, as I'm going through the detailed plan that was submitted, is the opposite, so I had to flip one document upside down.
He did it before, and then I did it, and we
yeah.
did it the other way, and then we're like, wait.
So tell him to
Yes.
flip it so that it matches, if you could please, that would be lovely.
Okay.
Because I'm
I just
trying
hope
to
it was
read
not.
it, and it's, the
Problem
buildings
is,
are
I
going
hope it
in.
wasn't filed already. That's the problem.
What?
I hope it wasn't filed by the AG's office. Meaning, we had our site plan that we've been showing you like this. He might have filed that already with the AG's office. Now it's just a question of,
I can tell you if he filed it with the AG's office.
oh, there we go. And the rest of these comments, I will now work with the architectural team. Button that up.
I think the biggest comment of mine, which needed, and some of this is internal, but again, since we're defining these as legal units and then that's what's gonna be assessed and everything else, we need to, normally I could care less about interior walls. I
Right.
normally don't care. In this case, they're becoming units and the basis of the assessment and how they assess, so we need to get them right as part of the definition. My biggest comment, is just consistency. It wasn't clear, do you intend for the addition to have an interconnection with the existing units, or is that just gonna be wall to wall?
Along the wall and this opening here.
Right, because there's all sorts of doors and windows
I
on the
did
first
notice that
floor.
with the architects, I think what's actually going on is, so I take that back, I think there might be a wall, and there might be a hallway, like a corridor right around here. I will
Well,
clarify that,
yeah.
because I did notice that also. I'm gonna work with the architect to make sure all
Okay.
this is,
The other thing that I noticed is if, depending on how that is, if there's a hallway, great, led to my question of, because originally when I'm looking at the site plan, it's new addition butts up, so you've got two walls and essentially a party wall.
right.
You have a stairway to nowhere, which in a fire is a no-no. That
What
one,
are you saying, this one?
yeah,
No, it's not. There is
So,
a wall, yes.
okay, so we need
I'm
to,
gonna work with the architect, because to me, it's all one thing. Like you said, I also don't deal with the interiors too much.
yeah, normally I don't care about it, but
But I understand that.
I need to care, because it's how you define,
Looks like the architect doesn't either.
well,
No comment.
it's consistency.
Actually, we could just go back to comment 11 on the site maneuverability. You wrote remains outstanding.
I probably didn't update it.
Oh, okay,
That's an
fine.
engineer, that's more of an engineering.
Right, so we did provide, the fire department was okay with it, the garbage truck, and I'm gonna get to your comments in a second. But we wrote, about the limitations of the software, that we don't have that model
Okay.
in our order term, we're gonna add that note. So all right, if you're saying if it's good with David, it's good with you.
If it's good with Dave, it's good with me.
Perfect.
Now that begets the next question, is it good with Dave?
Well,
I'm reading.
Okay, and then I guess David, if we could go through the comments.
Sure.
All right, details for the proposed porous pavers shall be provided, we're gonna add that. Existing asphalt ramps, I'm wondering if a site visit is necessary again, just for this minor, I know last time you were here.
We talked about doing a site visit, and I guess we never got together to do that, but,
We can still
yep.
schedule, it's really, it's this ramp that's existing, I guess we would measure it together just to make sure that it complies still with that this complies
Correct.
with ADA standards. This little patch of asphalt that's getting ripped out.
Okay.
So if you think it's necessary, we still could, I was wondering if it's worth scheduling.
Well, I think we also need the details on the plan, because, right, the curb,
This is there already, right, I guess.
but you have a curb, walkway on the north side of the rear building, right?
Yeah, that would just be the standard detail.
But there's no details, is what I'm saying.
That would do, the question is for this, if it pays to do a site visit just for this one thing. It's an existing concrete ramp, I believe there's spot elevations there, I can show them,
Okay.
show that it's within 5%.
Yeah, if you can confirm that it will meet ADA requirements,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Otherwise,
But
it's a
we
half
just,
a
we
day.
just don't wanna have a situation where
Right.
it's not going to.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, but part of that comment was that I don't believe you have any curb
We're
ramp
gonna put
details.
the typical curb ramp details over there, yes.
Okay,
Okay, you've agreed with us on the changes to the landscaping plan, we just need to update the list.
correct?
We'll do that. Now, comment number 4, landscaping calculations, we met them, per code of 200-45J. The question is if the board is okay with that. We've provided these plans, I don't have it here, I have it on the sheet, but we did the calculations, 10% of the area. As you guys can even see on this plan, we've shown all, and we had a colorized rendering plan. The comment says the planning board should review for adequacy. Is this something, I'm just wondering if you guys have looked at it and that's something you guys are okay with?
Well, I think we did take a look last time we looked through it, and I think it seemed pretty good.
Yeah. The lighting, David, I think we'll schedule a Zoom call with you. I think we're gonna have to talk about that, just to get that to a place where we're both, where we're comfortable. I think there's some miscommunication. I'd rather maybe do it, instead of at this forum, just do it with my team.
So this is where you were proposing the shielding on the fixture, right?
Yes.
And I know we talked about it the last meeting, but I couldn't remember, we talked about.
You were talking about going individually.
Right.
Yeah,
One
we
by
would
one.
actually measure, yes. Well, that, but then also, I know the 3,000 Kelvin, I know there were some changes that were made in
Well,
this
you made
round.
some of them, right, because I
Right.
believe, yeah,
Yeah.
it says this has been addressed, the temperature, the color temperature, the lighting, you did confirm to be 3,000.
Right, that's why, when I saw the same list of comments, I thought that maybe we should just, schedule and review the plan to make sure. Comment number 6, we'll definitely put the note in the plan. Comment number 7, again, is the photos of the existing building. And then this goes back to the, okay, comment number 8 is the subdivision. I guess normally you're right, I guess it would be meets and bounds if this were a traditional subdivision. The question is on something like this with the interiors.
Well, some of these I took off of the Orange County Clerk's Office has an online checklist for
Right.
condominium filing. Some of this information was taken right off of that.
Right.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever filed a condominium plan in my 30-some odd years, but,
Right.
my last comment there, which I would recommend, is that you submit, because when you file a subdivision map in the county, typically they want to see the review before it's been signed by the chairman.
Right.
So what I'd recommend is you
Go
submit to
through
the
this.
county to have them do the preliminary review to make sure that it has all the information on it that they're expecting to see, so
Right.
that this board doesn't act on a map, sign it, and then you go file it and find out that it's lacking in something.
Got it. So you're saying really go through comment F. Right, because when I spoke to Elizabeth about this, she had said also that she'd never worked on something like this. And I went actually to the village website to go through their checklist just to make sure we had some basics, vicinity map, some of the notes about ownership, things like that. So I will go through these, make sure, A through E are on there, and then maybe also do F. Okay, so here we are. It seems like a lot of these comments for the subdivision are technical in nature. Just to get it to a point where it could be filed, I would ask if we could now begin the seeker process, maybe refer this out for public hearing?
So for Kittredge, we have to conclude the seeker process. I'm just trying to think.
What was that for Kittredge?
It's a case
figured.
citation, Kittredge v. Town of Liberty. That is a case that you have to finish seeker beforehand.
For subdivision.
For
right?
for subdivision, not for site plan. There was something this morning that I told you in our prep meeting, and I can't remember what it was. Do you see the smoke coming out of my ears? Hold on.
Was it about expected actions?
When he goes to the bathroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, he'll hit him.
I promise, I was listening, I just can't remember.
No, there was, all right, let me just see what outstanding seeker things. Well, we've already declared we've declared lead agency, and we'll be in a position to assume lead agency because well more than 30 days has passed. So what you're asking for is to, in order to finish seeker, you would either need to make a determination that there is a negative declaration that there's no environmental impact, no adverse environmental impact, and we've done that for projects and detailing why. Or you would have to make a finding that there is, and then that would lead to greater review. I'm not suggesting that necessarily. Just looking through my. And we're not requesting, where are we with traffic? Because it's, and I'm confusing two buildings, because it's an existing building. So, it's gonna drive me nuts. There was something else I needed and it's gonna drive me nuts.
It was 239, did they do that on this already? Was this sent out for the county's
Local
review?
determination letter dated February 27th, 2025.
So that's
At
probably-
least on the site plan, not on the condo, but it's the same thing, so there was, at least a local determination there. Oh, I need to know how the site's gonna be managed.
Okay, I guess that's something that we could,
Yeah.
I could email.
I don't necessarily need a full declaration, but I need to, because my concern was the response to the comment was, it's gonna remain the same. That was the response to the comment. I need to know how the common areas are managed. I don't need to the letter details, but I need a,
The question is if we could file, go through the motions for public hearing and provide that at the next planning board meeting. Is that
well,
something?
the board can authorize me to start preparing a negative declaration, and then we can set the public hearing on the 7th for the,
For the special meeting?
no, not for the special meeting, set it on the special
You
meeting.
can set the public meeting on
But
this.
that pushes it out because of the timing. Normally, we would have done June to July, second meeting in June to second meeting in July.
Because you need 40 days or something like that, or 30?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I don't need 30, but I need more than 2. I need
Yeah.
enough time for Terry to get it published.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that.
We've done it, but it's really tight, and it requires everybody the week after a major holiday week to get everything right, including the newspaper.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And also, I don't have the submission. So what I would
Right.
suggest is that you authorize me to draft, and it's not a formal vote, it's an informal vote. Authorize me to draft a negative declaration for the board's consideration.
Mhm. I know we sent this to Ted, we just didn't get feedback from Ted yet either. That's the,
I'm less worried, because of the nature of the site, I'm less worried about this one, on that one.
On
But,
that?
but I need to know how the site's gonna, the operation of the site's gonna function.
right.
Because it's
No,
not,
I get that.
when you have a
That's-
tenant, the
yes.
landlord takes care of the entire site.
Right.
When
an
you sell
HOA
out all the units, who's responsible for how does that work? And if there's an association, there'd be a commercial, it'd be like an HOA.
It is an HOA.
It's a commercial association. But I need to have at least a general understanding of how that's gonna work. And like I said, because I got a comment that said it's gonna be the same, that gives me pause. So the applicant should present at least a narrative of how that's gonna work. It's gonna be, no matter what happens, the declaration is gonna be a condition of approval.
Right. And how is that interacting in your mind there with the neg deck?
You would describe an agreement in the negative that the maintenance of the site is gonna be controlled by a declaration to be filed in the Orange County Clerk's office and reviewed by the town, by the.
Right,
village
so
attorney.
drawing that up.
You
how
don't
are
need the
How are you
full-
gonna do that?
No, I can,
If you don't know how it's gonna go?
well, I need a summary of how it's gonna go.
I mean, I could get that to you ASAP, but just considering the
Why not,
scheduling
why not
changes.
just take a look at the contract?
Because I don't have it.
Yeah.
He has to submit it. It's
Well,
all-
it's a declaration that gets
Yeah,
filed.
I think we hold on that until we have what we need. I do.
Okay, so after next submission, I'll,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at then? That we'll meet another workshop next month, assuming we get you that submission?
So next month, we
Have a special meeting.
have a special meeting
You can
because,
vote to set the public hearing.
right. we'd have
I
to
can
go-
draft it, we have to adopt the neg deck before we open the public hearing. So you can set the public hearing theoretically on the 7th for, I love the,
It tends to be very simple. You have a few loose ends that they have to see.
Right.
Get them in.
I understand,
You
but
get
because of
them
the
in,
nature of the subdivision, what I'm just
You
afraid
get
of.
them in,
Right.
it's easy to plan a public hearing.
so you can, if they're in, we have a special meeting on the 7th. You can set the public hearing on the 7th for August 26th, which would be our next date. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's August
so it'll be-
26th.
Mhm.
Set it for August 26th, and also on the 7th, you would authorize me to draft the negative declaration. The applicant does run the risk you have to adopt the negative deck. If you don't, so you would, on the 26th, instead of going motion to open a public hearing, you're gonna go motion to review the negative
Right, first,
declaration.
do the public
Have the
meeting afterward.
discussion, vote on the negative declaration. If the board adopts the negative declaration, we then motion to open the public hearing because seeker is complete,
Right. Mhm.
okay?
Yeah, and that gives us the
And-
time we need too. so.
Sorry, that's just the machinations that the court puts us through.
Yeah,
That,
no, I
that
get it,
negative
I get it.
declaration will have a reservation of rights, that if somebody comes out in the public and raises an issue that we didn't consider, that that alters our evaluation of the environmental impacts, that we can reopen seeker.
Right.
So that's how we're gonna proceed.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
So,
yeah, that gives
next
us the time.
submission, get me that stuff, Dave, get Dave's comments.
When you say that stuff, you're talking about the management of the site. That's the big thing.
Yes.
All these other stuff in Orange County and all that, I can't promise that by then. I will reach out to Dave also, just confirming.
And then I think,
Site-related stuff, the details and all that, but the main thing is to get a revised site plan and how the site is gonna be managed. When is the deadline for this meeting to submit?
For the 7th?
Yeah.
2 weeks prior, I think? Is that right? 2 weeks prior?
I have it on my calendar.
It's not always 2 weeks, it kind of,
Hold
depending
on.
on the,
Submission date is the 26th,
yeah, 26.
June 26th.
Okay, so the main item you're looking for is management of the site, because that's the only thing that's getting in the way of a neg deck.
I need to know that the site's gonna be properly managed.
Right.
In the absence of a single owner.
Yeah,
Text them right now.
On the, what do you mean, on the landscape plan? The tree line on the site plan. Does your landscape plan show the tree line?
there is no actual tree line, it shows trees. You can pull it up, we have it. This just shows the landscape areas, but you guys want to pull it up.
You know, that would be in
No, site plan set, there we go. So I've actually got two. Again, this site is entirely paved over, so there's no actual tree line. There we go, so that actually shows, you could see, it's got a planting legend of trees. And then if you go down, we even have a colorized site plan. Yeah, there we go. And everything around it is paved, so there's no tree lines that are applicable here.
Right. Yeah, I think we saw, I
Yeah,
think
this
that's what
is-
we looked at.
Yeah.
And is there a rendering of what the building looks like, the proposed, building looks like on there as well? Because as far as like the visual of it?
Yeah, not in this submission, I think in one back, but that has been submitted.
You know, and so many other properties that have come in, just like the Muslim temple, there's a tree line, there's trees like every 10, 15 feet.
No, it's not gonna be that.
You don't see that here.
No, that's us. Scroll down.
Between his property and the bank,
No, if you go down, no, go down.
The site's pre-existing.
There
Down,
was for some reason some pre-existing.
but that's their
down,
property.
down,
Aren't there some tree saplings or
It's a
trees?
development property.
Down.
No property?
down.
It's a development property.
Pull up and Google Earth,
Yeah,
on this, right?
I thought there was something.
Not sure if you know.
Just grass, all it is, man.
Your renders PDF.
My response.
Oh. Yeah. So just, I mean.
Yes, it's all grass.
Yeah, it is all grass, you're right. So just, I mean, for reference, it's a much better looking building than what's existing, right? We could agree on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
wouldn't it make sense to have them look the same? I mean, and I know it's a little hidden back there, I guess you could argue that if you wanted to, but,
Yeah, you could argue why it's so nice in the back, considering that it's hidden.
I mean, if anything, the front should be nice and back.
Right, so that's not a question for me. I'd have to ask the applicant that. Yeah, that's, you know.
It's only one building, so to speak, in Cooper City.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right, if you had renting a place there and now you're in the front, when you want to look like the,
Yeah, 100%. But
Right,
yeah,
but
but at the same time, there is also the cost of, you know, we're talking
of
about
course,
series of, you know, 2 buildings.
yeah.
So I could ask the applicant.
The paving, the landscaping, it looks so nice, and then you still have just an existing.
Yeah, it's all
The
paved.
grass area, is that your property or the bank's?
I don't know if it's as far as somewhere in the middle. I don't know. So we, you know, no, it looks like our property line literally touches.
It's the bank's.
Next, yeah.
The bank owns the grass.
Yeah. It looks like from here. And perhaps maybe there's a couple of minor cosmetic stuff that the you know, that they could do. I'll ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That rendering didn't show the landscaping there, right?
No, it still has the old. You can see it's got the drive-through lines going to nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Navi, I don't think you provided for us the actual colors. Did you do all that?
Probably not.
Yeah, colors and materials, serial numbers, you know, and everything you can get for that.
Is there an architectural checklist that you guys have online or anything like that? Is there an architectural review? Like, how does that work?
It's in the code.
Yes.
Okay. I will I'll try and get that to you. Is that also gonna get in the way of the neg deck, or is that just?
Well, it will get in the way of the architectural review.
Right, okay, fine. When does that usually happen? Putting this up?
Usually it's a little bit, once we're through enough
And
stuff.
public hearing and all that.
Yeah, it'll be before the public hearing.
Oh, it is before?
Yeah. For
Okay.
the architectural review, yeah.
Is that at one of these boards, or is it?
Yeah, we do it.
Oh, just at one of these
Yeah.
workshops? Okay, so we're gonna try and get that in then, fine.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Color materials,
It's
fine.
not the-
Not the venue.
Yeah, okay, and then, like I said, I will provide some photos, I can talk to them.
So the drive-through, is that staying there?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And that, so
Change
now
the
there's, obviously that those lanes are gonna be, just come straight.
Yeah, see here, just continue straight.
Yeah.
And we made sure that we leave enough room here, we kept this area open also so no back.
So it's not super blind in that corner right there.
Yes, some nice little landscaping here that they could back out.
So that's Cadillac's gonna basically be the first car, so to speak?
Give or take, yeah, maybe one, it could be even one closer to us. Yeah.
That's the back of the pharmacy, right?
Right. Oh, there's some good caution or signage or something for, because, you know, he's obviously pulled, he's backed in, which is nice when you pull out, but most cars are gonna drive forward, so they're gonna be backing out to that, right?
Right, but then, yeah, I remember this
Yeah.
was a comment, right, so we specifically
A
kept
little
this
bit, yeah.
area open. Again, they're stopping here, so if they're in this lane, so, yeah.
Alright, well, there's some visual.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we will work on getting you, some of the agreement or some framework on how the site is gonna be managed. And I will speak to the architect,
Even if it's an outline, I get it, there, you know, each unit is gonna be a percentage of, is gonna own a certain percentage of the common elements and
Right.
will contribute either accordingly or whatever. I don't need the nitty gritty details, but I just need an overall
so how this is
structure.
going,
You
right.
homes and the tennis facility. This side of the building.
Site maintenance, tentative schedules, just the tentative schedule is for submission
Yeah.
for the
Those
7th.
pictures of 3:30 that you sent. Pictures of 3:30.
Pictures that you sent in the email.
Pictures.
Yeah, when was that from?
Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay, can,
Yeah, we'll talk about it after this.
7/7, for public hearing.
You know, if you just look at that wall, on the other side of the parking lot from the bank are homes.
Yeah.
And the Monroe Tennis Club.
Mhm.
And that's all they're gonna see is the side of a wall.
Mhm.
When-
Well, that's why we have to review it.
And that's all they're seeing now, though. It just,
when-
Right.
somehow this site became paved over.
Actually, they're gonna be seeing a nicer wall now.
Right.
Instead of the old wall. It was
Right.
Yeah, we do have, you know, this little, you know, we do have,
Right,
we have
see no
some
wall.
landscaping around the
You go
dumpster.
right to the trees. You see nothing.
Wait, what do
You go right to the trees. On the vet's property. If that building was not there, you see the trees on the vet property.
Mhm.
That's changing too.
Yeah, that's going down though, right?
Hmm?
Because
The vet-
that vet property's taken
That's
over.
changing too.
We all know that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
still, my point is, there should be some sort of tree wall there, some bushes, something there.
Screening is what you're saying.
Some sort of screening.
And again, I think we've done a pretty good job really taking out as many areas as we can. A site like this has been all paved over. We've met the requirements again, you know, even for example, around here, I'm gonna pull up the landscaping plan, maybe we could add some bushes here, because if you're talking about looking from this angle, maybe there's something we could do here behind the dumpster.
That's up on, you're talking up on the road, up on 17. I'm talking about.
No, that's the back, that's
That's the end, that's the back.
the back
Oh,
side.
you're talking about in the front, you're saying?
No, he's talking about the back.
He's talking-
Right, that's what I'm saying, so I would just take a look. You know, for example, we did create, you know, some landscaping here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can't add, oh, we even have, you see, we have a couple of bushes.
Right.
He's saying is just keep going towards the bank, is what it sounds like Joe's saying.
Yeah, we don't really, you know, look, we put it in the corners, we have it there. I believe, I have to double check, the tree doesn't come if there's no door. I'm not sure why this sidewalk is here, that maybe originally connected. The way we have it now,
You
we
should-
found parallel parking over
Mhm.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Do you need a sidewalk along here? 'Cause we could take that out. Dave, is that something that would be?
I don't think you would need it if there's no door.
Right, if there's no door. Yeah, we would love to, we could take some of this out and put it, you know, row of shrubs, something like that to make it a little nicer.
Well, I think, just not to speak for Joe, but it sounds like he's saying in between properties is what I'm,
Right,
I can speak for you.
You're right.
Right, but you gotta put it on your,
We also then, we're talking about the maneuverability. You can't push this, you don't want cars nipping the building here. I think having that, you need that little separation.
no, he's talking about the line, the property line.
Talking about along here, the question is there's no room, we have parking right up, and the area is paved now.
Right.
That
He's
is-
saying
right.
where the existing dumpster is, where you get your little tree line, just keep going towards the bank, yeah.
Right, what he's just saying though, it's all paved, there's
On the
no,
top
No,
side,
it's
the
not.
opposite of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what.
oh, the other side, I see what you're saying.
Right, but
That
again,
grass line.
we don't have, we just don't have the room. So we've got.
And he does not trigger the tree replacement because he's not removing
Right.
trees.
Right,
And the grass line is the
Right,
bank
again,
anyway.
you know,
And the pavement's already there, and
The starting point is-
if the bank wants to have a screen there, they have several feet.
Right, the bank's got all the room.
They should do it.
Right, we've done, I think, a very nice job
Mhm.
taking this area that's right now one big sea of asphalt and really breaking it up and creating something. So obviously, we could do the best, we're doing the best we can. I would totally, if this is okay, if there's not a problem not having sidewalk back here, we would love to rip it up, put a little bit of shrubs, it just creates a little more green in the back. Over here, we're just pretty limited.
There's no door on that back
I
side?
believe not, we have the doors here, 1, 2, and 3, this is the main door, this is an emergency exit, so we only have pavers over here. I believe there's not, I think the reason why we kept it is for, let's say, someone were to be parking back here. But, you know, for these 4 spaces, if you're saying we could remove this sidewalk, we'd remove it.
And
Some shrubs.
put green in.
Yeah.
Well, so what would you be doing with the space? You're gonna make the travel lane right up against the building?
No, meaning right now.
Put-
these parallel parking
He'd get rid of the sidewalk and replace it with shrubs.
There's a sidewalk here.
Oh, I see, okay.
5 spaces. What I'm saying is if we were okay with it, getting rid of the sidewalk and just replacing with shrubs, and maybe get rid of it halfway, meaning how long do you need to have the sidewalk?
Yeah, okay.
See, according to that picture here, you're showing a tree or shrubs in here.
Right.
In this corner.
Yeah.
So, you know, we, right, so with the visibility, we could find, we could keep the shrubs, I don't think that'll be an issue, as long as they're
Frank.
below the height, you know, a person sitting in a car is a couple feet above the ground. So we could keep some short shrubs, I don't think that'll get away with visibility. Yeah,
jobs
we have to run a tree.
See, but there's no way, I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
You're falling over.
Yeah, there's no way that you can extend this
Oh, you
line
wouldn't find, I mean, the stuff,
to here.
the stuff there.
No, you've got the 18 spaces and you need a.
There's really not room
There isn't room over
for
there.
that. And what we're saying is that, I mean, again, it's not the bank's responsibility to provide screening, but they do
Correct.
have several feet of
They have
lawn
several
area here
feet, right.
that if they wanted to, they could.
This,
But
Right.
it's already, I mean,
Right now,
if
area
the
is
site wasn't
paved, they're
already
looking-
paved, I think we'd probably be asking for
Right.
yeah,
additional screening to be provided. But as it sits right now, it's all pavement right up to the property.
yep.
Right, and, you know, I think whatever it is, we're gonna be enhancing the view from any direction. So considering that you're okay with that, I would take out that sidewalk over here and replace it with some green, so that's gonna add even more landscaping, this area over here.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary personally. I think it's in the back of the building. I think got a lot of green in there. It's only facing the back, but that's just my.
And it's up against it, too, so.
Yeah,
But-
but if you're saying, we
I think
would
the sidewalk
probably
is
like
safer
that.
for people that have to go back.
Right, so that's the question, if the board rather see the sidewalk, I'll keep the sidewalk.
I really walk on the sidewalk.
Personally.
If I was parked back there, then
Yeah, I
sidewalk
know.
and then right.
Right, because especially here you have cars.
Right.
Right.
It's driving. It's literally a drive-through. You're walking.
Right.
Plus,
That's
when you,
fine.
when you sort your driveway, you probably kill all the things right there.
Yeah.
Because you're not, when you're clearing in the winter and stuff, you're
Right.
gonna be putting soft, those plants won't last there
Right.
against the building.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll keep the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or just keep it.
Okay.
Well, you got like 3, 4 other places
So-
like that.
Just to go over the
On there.
schedule,
Yeah.
just to confirm the schedule, he's gonna make one more submission for the 7/7 meeting, which is a special meeting. We will, at that time, assuming the submission is made, you will authorize me to draft a negative declaration for circulation and discussion. And then we will set the public hearing for August 26th. And then take act, then, neg deck, public hearing August 26th, and then go from there.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
I may not be at that August 26th meeting, but then my partner would be here. So,
Okay.
all right,
Good.
Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
Whatever, yep. Great. Anything else from the board?
Be this quick today.
All right?
Pleasure to see you again.
Yeah.
Here, thank you so much. Was I supposed to go before Joel, by the way?
Yes.
You weren't
I
here.
didn't realize it's third on the agenda. I'm like, all right, I got a couple minutes to do my.
The first two went really fast. though, so-
The first two are really fast.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
No, not for you.
Today, my wife works Monday evenings,
But okay.
and I had this meeting, so like getting the kids ready for bed before the babysitter came and all that. I appreciate that.
I know.
Yeah.
Why don't you leave it for the babysitter?
It's my sister.
He knows better.
I want her to do this again.
Okay, anything, I don't think there's any other business, I think that's it.
Do you want to ask about those pictures?
The letter, you wanted to talk about the letter to the board, or are we good with that?
So I kind of alluded to it when we discussed the first two applications, because I know the board gave me a direction to look at the grading, particularly, I think, the unintended consequences, because we were getting what we got tonight, which was, simple swimming pool applications. All of a sudden, they now need to come for, and how much does it cost to prep a site plan, Dave?
Thousands of dollars.
And I don't, so you had asked me to take a look at that, and for some reason, I was looking at something else, something completely unrelated, stumbled across that provision and went, oh. So, take a look, it is, it is section 31 of the zoning code, so 200-31. About, essentially, the way I read it, and I did consult with the village attorney, is that it's really a two-part analysis. One, is it a land disturbance activity, that meets the requirements? And then if yes, does it trigger the requirements of site plan approval? So again, A2 has this exemption. Exempt acts and activities are those that include excavations for basements and footings of 1 or 2 family detached dwellings, septic systems, wells, swimming pools, soil testing, gardening, and activities related to the maintenance of landscaping features on existing developed lots. So that's, you know, the broader question, which may require clarity and might be appropriate for a letter to the village board, is, do they intend, the provisions we're talking about are in 2 places. It's 268D, and then it's in the site plan requirements in the 72s. Do they intend that exemption to apply to those provisions, or are they 2 completely separate provisions? I think
Sorry
they're,
to interrupt, it looks like Joel Mann left his stuff here.
Oh.
I texted him now,
Okay, good, thanks. Thanks, Avi.
the question is, was it intended that that exemption apply to 68? Are they intended as 2 separate? And there should be, if either way, there should be clarification in the law so that we're clear, yes, the exemption applies, no, it doesn't.
So, here's the chicken and the egg thing, but wouldn't Chris make a determination on that first?
So ultimately, once the code is in place and implemented, Chris makes a determination, as building inspector makes a determination, the code means X,
Right,
right? The code means X.
yes.
If that is not what the village board wants,
Then they can change
then
it
it is incumbent on the village board to make a legislative amendment.
to clarify.
It's kind of like when the Supreme Court tells Congress they can't do something. This is a broader example. Supreme Court tells Congress, no, you can't do that, and then Congress goes and changes the law. Same idea.
Right,
Chris is making the initial interpretation. Yes, this exemption appears to apply. No, it does not. If the board goes, oh, wait a second, we don't want that exemption to apply, then they need to amend the code to clarify, because this is called land disturbance. And then if I go to 68.
all right, so then, before we go to the village board then, we just need to get Chris's clarification to see what he thinks there.
I don't know that it's entirely, you don't need to necessarily follow that order. Certainly, I'm not gonna have the letter drafted by the time Chris
Right.
issues his interpretation.
Right.
If,
So by default, we'll do that order.
and then 68D, so there's land disturbance, which is 32.
You can take it for him?
He actually asked if he could leave it by, sorry. He asked if he could leave it by you, and
Oh,
pick it up
okay,
tomorrow.
sure.
32 says land disturbance. 68D says earthwork and earth moving activities. Are they synonymous? Are they not?
Right.
So the fact that we're having confusion as to the interpretation, perhaps there should be clarification, or at least at a minimum, policy clarification moving forward, so we have a uniform interpretation. The last thing we want is one swimming pool to be treated differently from another swimming pool when it's the exact same pool.
Right.
So, 32 does refer to 68, so I think the intention, 68 refers to building permits, and then 72 is the site plan. So, I will follow up with Chris, and then I can circulate an email with the board and, you know, get direction from there, and you can tell me how you want me to,
Okay.
how you want to go. And still, I think there were some other discussion points that we had raised in there, you know, increasing the size from like 100 square feet to 200 square feet. So just keep that in mind. But I would recommend everybody go read section 31, which is the land disturbance section.
Right.
And 68 too, probably, right?
68D is the other section. Does anybody have any other questions?
Are we good?
I,
Okay, I'd like to at least talk about the pictures that Terry was good enough to send to everybody.
Yeah, I sent my own over to the mayor the other day. That's why I wanted to know when they came from, because I live right across the street.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's a disaster.
well,
But there's no, I get that.
This was
Yeah.
taken,
I agree with you.
this was taken May 31st, Saturday.
Mhm.
Friday it rained an inch to an inch and a half rainstorm. Right there. What happens when we have a hurricane and we have 3 to 4 inches of rain?
They get more water.
Okay? So how hot, it's not gonna go a lot higher, but it's certainly gonna be more widespread.
Joe, is that actually water on the other side of the?
Yes.
It is, okay, it is water.
I'm standing right
Yeah.
there, right on Route
I see
17.
that, yeah, right.
so I think I think the appropriate course of action, because also we have not issued an approval, we haven't even had a public hearing, is that, Terry, please send these pictures to the applicant and
Yes.
say that this was observed, okay?
On May 31st.
Please redact, Joe's personal email.
Now, look at this here, right, look at this picture.
Yeah, just.
All the back is flooded. Where I'm standing is probably 100 feet from the cemetery. That's where they want to put the Ramapo Business Center.
Right.
Right in front of this.
Well,
Now,
that,
tell me why, in both cases, being that building should have never been built in the first place because it is a floodplain. That was an old Saab dealership. With that stated, fine, upstairs, they got the furniture. I believe a letter should maybe come from us to the board, or a letter to the inspector, that the problem, that building is condemned for any use.
Can you do a partial, can you condemn
It's
partial
a
building?
that's a question.
That would be out of our, not us.
I
That-
think for this particular board, and the pictures are certainly, the applicant is entitled to, with respect to that applicant, the applicant should be forwarded the pictures. There doesn't need to be any description, but other than, please see the attached pictures that were submitted to the planning board, okay? That's,
Terry, take
With-
my name off it,
I
because
will.
David loves me.
with respect, well, with respect to condemnation proceedings, while certainly there are regulations reflecting construction in, there's floodways, floodplains, 100-year floodplain, 500-year floodplain, and there's certain regulations, and a building could comply with those regulations and still be flooded. With respect to a condemnation, it is the condition of the premises and whether that meets the uniform building code or property maintenance code. If the damage is sufficient, now if they go in there and it's full of mold and other things, there may be a basis for condemnation, and certainly this is an issue that will need to be addressed. Clearly, the temporary flood thing is sort of working, not really.
My guess is they didn't have it run fully. It
Yeah.
looks like it went around it, but, hard to tell from the photos.
So, and this
I've asked the
partic-
question of this applicant at least twice, if not 3 times.
I understand that.
Come back with the 100-year floodplain and tell me how it's gonna keep water out.
Well, their proposal, which is not a planning board issue, is a building department issue, is that they're going to
Waterproof the walls.
waterproof the walls. That is a building permit issue. It's also an issue for approval with the New York State. I don't want to get too terribly deep in a conversation right now because the applicant is not present. The applicant should be forwarded and be told that this was brought to our attention and that they may be expected to address it. Certainly, as members of the planning board, when you see observations like that, so long as you disclose those observations, you are allowed to, and clearly multiple people saw this because it was a big rain event.
Yeah.
I know multiples of my municipalities. Trust me, I got multiple such and such as flooding. We had a pretty big rainstorm come through. Certainly, you are allowed to rely on your everyday observations so long as you disclose those general observations. So, we'll put the applicant on notice of this, and certainly it will play a part. At this point, this applicant, until he goes to the ZBA, there's not much we've told him until he makes an application to the ZBA for the loading dock issue. We're dead in the water. So, maybe that's a bad pun to use right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry about that. Again, we'll forward those to the particular applicant. With respect to the other project, they have not been before us in quite some time, and this
Right.
was one of the many issues that
But we could put these on the file for that later. You know what I mean? That's-
Definitely.
Yeah.
we kind of know that with the other property, and it's one of the reasons that they've struggled to get that appropriately developed, because they are in the floodway and need significantly more permitting from DEC than,
Then there's no building there.
there's no building. This is a pre-existing building that was built
And that's all
when,
porous there.
That retaining wall is already kind of,
Impervious stuff there, it's kind of.
it's already, I'm sure you saw the retaining wall when you were there, right, Joe? I don't call it retaining wall, but right to the left, where like the parking lot
bows.
goes, it's already.
Yeah.
yeah.
Joe's been
So,
talking about that.
I don't want to, again, I'm going to kind of nip
Right.
the conversation in the bud because
Yeah.
the applicant's not here. And again, anytime you see an observation, make note, get it to Terry. Terry can get it to an appropriate applicant. We can add this to the file with notice. All right. Jeff, anything else?
I think that's it.
We didn't do roll call, so just make note that Fred wasn't here just in case, but. Right.
She's all over that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a,
Or is somebody tapping?
I make a motion to close
Oh,
the
that's
meeting.
you? Okay. It sounded like somebody knocking at the back door.
we need a second.
I'll say.
Paul, all in favor? Good night, everyone.
Who made the
Yeah.
motion?
Yep.